Douglas, hi. How are you doing?
Les, I'm well. Good to see you. How are you?
Yeah, good. End of another busy week. I'm assuming, as always, you're busy.
It has been, yeah, it's been very busy actually, yeah, but for all the right reasons these days, Les.
That's good. Good, good, good. So, for everybody watching this video, Douglas is one of my current coaching clients. I wonder, Douglas, could we start off by perhaps you just telling people a bit about your role and what you do?
Yeah, certainly, Les. I'm responsible for running the sales team for a financial institution. My role is to cover the region that we call Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And the sales team are responsible for selling to institutional clients, both what we call asset owners, large pension funds, sovereign wealth funds, and asset managers, which could be hedge funds, institutional managers, private equity managers, etc. So very much in the financial services industry.
And so, highly regulated, and from my knowledge, quite complex, long sales cycles at times.
Yeah, I would say complex sales cycles, long average sales cycles, sometime between sort of 6 to 18 months, sometimes as long as 3 years, and tend to be very solutions orientated.
Right. Got it. Got it. So maybe say a little bit, if you would, about some of the sales challenges, some of the things that you were facing before we started to work together.
Yeah, certainly, Les. Thank you. So before we started working together, I had actually been a sales manager in the team that I was then asked to lead. And one of the things that I noticed was that different people were selling in different ways within the team with differing results. As a team, we had no common language. There was nothing to pivot back to in terms of where we were operating well, where we were getting stuck, and what we were doing differently. And our results as a team were a little bit hit and miss. And we were operating in an environment which was, as you say, quite regulatory. Often we would have consultants that were intermediating between us and the end client. And a lot of the processes we were being involved in were RFP or tender-driven exercises. So in summary, we weren't always understanding why we were doing well, why we were being successful, and we weren't always understanding when we weren't. And so we were shadow boxing a bit, if you like, fishing in the dark, trying to understand exactly what it was that made us successful. And we weren't getting out ahead of the RFPs, getting to clients and uncovering value in advance of those RFP processes enough. So the challenge for me when I took over managing the team was trying to explain that to everyone without making myself unpopular.
And I know that's not your style or your desire. Look, what I know is that you and the team have had some really great successes, certainly in the recent past. And again, I'm just wondering, can you share either a couple of examples or a couple of things that are going well for you guys in the more recent past?
Yeah, no, I'm delighted to do that. I mean, from a first principles basis, I'd say that the journey that we've been on with you, Les, has been really rewarding in two fronts. I'll focus on it from some of the people that work for me. So what's the feedback I get from the sales managers and the sales associates that work for me? And then I'll talk a little bit about my own personal experience as well. But I think what the sales managers and sales associates that work for me have found is that they have a common language. They have a way of interacting with each other when we're working on opportunities that helps them to help each other.
Right.
We know where we are in the sales process. We know what we need to do. And in terms of coaching and supporting each other, they're able to do that because we have tools and best practices now that just help us get a sense of what's the job to be done. Whereas before, we didn't have that. We didn't have that common language, and it was much more of a challenge. It just tended to be people's opinions. If someone was older or more senior, then their opinion went. It wasn't always necessarily the right thing to do. So there's a lot more equality. There's a much better understanding across the team of what we need to do and how we need to do it. From my perspective, as a leader trying to tell the team how to sell, that's quite difficult. I think being a sales manager and a sales leader, you want to coach, you want to mentor, you want to get behind people. You don't necessarily want to be the person that is telling them how to sell the whole time. Otherwise, as I say, you can make yourself unpopular. Certainly in the culture I work in quite quickly, having you as a coach, both for me and knowing that you were coaching the team, just brought another dimension into our development, which meant that I knew I didn't need to be in a meeting you were in with a sales manager, but I knew what you would be saying, and I knew the coaching and advice they would be receiving, and that helped me in helping them, if that makes sense. So that consistency, and I think that external coach and the influence of an external coach, being seen as a coach, was more easily absorbed for some members of the team than me giving them any advice or support directly.
Yeah, great, great. And without breaking any confidences, is there anything you can say about your recent results? I mean, how's it going?
Yeah, sorry, that was the question, wasn't it? So the outcomes, I would say we are doing really well. I'd say we're about to have a record year. I'd say the average deal sizes of the things we're working on has gone up. I'd say for the most part, although there's still work to be done, we're engaged earlier on in the sales process. And we are finding value and differentiating ourselves with clients as a result of the way in which we're engaging with people. I'd say the language and the approach that the team are using is enabling us to build deeper relationships and build more trust early on in the sales cycle. So if people do tend to go to RFP, we have a good understanding of how to respond and how to differentiate our approach. And that's really helping our results. That's helping our win rates go up and the average deal size.
Great, great. So one last question, one last comment, Douglas, if you would. And what I guess I'm asking is, for anyone watching this video, considering working with me or someone like me, and maybe they have reservations about whether they should invest in themselves, what's your best advice in terms of helping them assess the value in doing something like this and actually investing?
Thanks, Les. Somebody once said to me that you need to be doing two things in sales in order to be happy, either learning or earning. And if you're doing both, then you'll be delighted. By working with someone like yourself, you can certainly be sure that you'll be learning, and learning from someone that's got experience, not just running complex deals, but also running sales teams and being a salesperson themselves. With many, many years of experience doing it in the industry. So whether you're an individual contributor or whether you're running a sales team, my advice would be jump right in. It will be a great experience, and you stand to learn from someone that's been selling professionally for many years.
Great, thank you. I really, really appreciate that. Douglas, thanks again for taking time. I know you have a busy schedule. I love working with you guys, and I know you've had some great success. And I'm hoping that anyone watching this video will get another insight into some of the benefits. So Douglas, again, thanks very much.
Thanks, Les. The feeling's mutual.